Views expressed in the videos are my observation, analysis of events, persons based on principles of astrology. It's not my intent to predict, forecast absolute outcomes, only suggest how they may unfold. Nothing is set in stone. I could be wrong, but often I'm right. My desire is not to promote fear, only inform about what we see unfolding. It is our wish to prepare our subscribers for events that could affect them, their family, their goals, and their future, to help to prepare for what you may already suspect is happening, and to send a warning shot across the bow and raise a flag of concern. Our goal is to help, not hinder, in these perilous times, to inspire and offer possible direction, and to reveal that a greater plan and purpose are behind all that is happening. Eventually, we will see a brighter day. If you would like to show your appreciation for our work on these videos or this channel, and also the Knowing Whispers channel, you can always click on the word thanks at the bottom of all the videos. Hello everybody, it's Robert Cosmar of the Astrology of Life YouTube channel and the 3 Substack newsletters, Knowing Whispers, Messages of the Universe, Trump in America, and also Ask the Astrologer. Today my video is entitled Trump and Harris, Freedom or Slavery, basically. What I'm going to try to do in this particular video is to show you chart comparisons of the 2 charts of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and then also of Donald Trump to Kamala Harris. What you're seeing right here on the screen is the natal chart here of Donald Trump, and on the outside here you're seeing the chart, the natal chart of Kamala Harris. And what I hope to do in this video is to imprint upon your mind and hopefully your heart the severity and the reality of what it is that we're looking at here. My feeling after looking at these charts for quite a while, and also listening to others that are keeping an eye on this particular relationship, is that we are entering into probably the most severe period in American history, at least in the history of democracy. This is like a heavyweight battle that we are entering into here. And quite honestly, it is a situation which, as it develops, it's going to require a tremendous amount of support from the American people for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is dealing with something here that she probably understands to a certain degree, but does not fully understand. And when the attacks become so personal and vile and so offensive, those things tend to wear you down. Okay? Right now, we're all kind of riding the wave of the fact that a younger person, okay, Kamala Harris, about 20 years younger than Joe Biden, is in the position to be running for the office, okay, of President of the United States. And there is a tremendous wave of support that has begun to build. But as we move forward in the next 90 days, the level of attacks, the severity of the attacks, the kind of attacks that she is going to experience are going to be very demoralizing, not only to her, but probably also to the country, to those that are of a democratic inclination. And these particular situations are a part of the dynamics that make up who Donald Trump is, what Donald Trump is, and why he's able to accomplish the things that he does. And we all, on one level or another, understand that most people would not be able to do that if there wasn't something behind that. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead with that and begin to look at these charts. The first 2 charts are Donald Trump on the inner circle and Kamala Harris on the outer circle. Some of the comments that I make might seem strange, but I'll try to explain them to you. Okay? And I may at some point in the process of this video also talk very, I think, sincerely about the depth and the extent to which Kamala Harris is dealing with here. We are in a situation, literally, where the battle for light and dark control of our physical universe is under siege. And it is no small adversary that she has in Donald Trump. Right at the moment, we all kind of feel like that Donald Trump's on the last leg of his trip around the bases. And it's just a matter of Kamala can keep things going on, that she'll eventually walk into the White House without any trouble. This could not be further from the case. Okay, Donald Trump has more devious, dark, underhanded, slimy, ideas and perceptions than even the most common criminal would be able to pull up. Okay, and this is what she's dealing with, and this is why I say that she will need the tremendous support and backing, no matter how bad it gets, of Americans who are devoted towards freedom versus being under his command, so to speak. Okay, now one of the first things I want to explain to you here in this video has to do with her Jupiter. Her Jupiter, oddly enough, is conjunct Donald Trump's midheaven, which would put it pretty close to the fixed star Algol. All right, and it took me a little bit to figure out what exactly is this meaning. Okay, and the thing that I've come up with is that because of her stature, because of who she is, and because of what she's causing to happen, that she's going to have an effect upon his finances, because those die-hard MAGA supporters, whether they're billionaires or they're common people, are going to be willing to fork over more money towards his defense. So this is not her helping him make more money in the direct sense that you would think, like a business partnership. This is the after effect of her being his opponent and his followers wanting to respond financially to help him. Okay? Now, there are many things in these two charts that are very intriguing, and that for me, they kind of state the severity, the intensity, the karmic factors involved, okay, in these two people. It's almost like Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have met before. You know, a couple of the things that I failed to mention when I did the first video on her, and I had at that time felt like that her time wasn't now. And then I began to realize that I probably spoke too soon on that and had investigated deeper. She has a couple of very interesting aspects in her Vedic horoscope. One of those is that Rahu, the North Node, is within 5 minutes of being conjunct her ascendant. In Vedic astrology, the ascendant and the moon are the most important points in the chart. Whatever aspects happen to those 2 points, whatever places, okay, they may be in, at least the moon, okay, it will determine the quality and the character and the fortune, misfortune of their life, okay. Her Rahu on her ascendant, for me, indicates that she has always had a very strong sense of herself, of high ideals and principles, of worldly ambition, the desire to excel, the desire to be in the position that she's actually in. All right. Saturn, of course, that I mentioned, is in Aquarius in her 9th house, and I really misjudged that placement. Even though there are other planets that are aspecting it, that are malefic planets, the fact of the matter is that overall it's a tremendously successful, positive aspect for her, okay, because it has to deal with things such as, dealing with the law, dealing with things of that nature, dealing with politics to a degree, although it's kind of an 11th house issue, at least in the Western system. So what I'm saying here is that she is capable, okay, of being able to come against someone like Donald Trump if she understands what she's dealing with. Now, that Saturn in her 8th house may give her the unspoken conscious knowledge of the depth of the darkness that Donald Trump is involved with. And I mentioned this here lately in some of my posts over on Substack. I know that some of you will be open to this idea. I know that many may feel like that it's just kind of new age metaphysical mumbo jumbo, and that's okay. Okay. But from my own experience and my own knowledge of these things, okay, I think that you have to admit that there's something bizarre about Donald Trump's success, his ability to skirt through the law, and his position that he's in, even though he seems to be waning a little bit. And this, I go back to what I said earlier about there is a battle here between light and darkness, between good and evil, if you want to use that term, between control of humanity and between our ability to have the freedom to determine our own fate and destiny. Okay, this is the big picture. And when she is battered down and she is weak because of the assaults and the attacks and maybe some unconscious stuff from her past that she has not remembered, okay, assaults on her character, assaults on her being a female, assaults on her not being white, all right, it will require the diligence of Americans to say, Kamala, no matter what happens, we stand with you. She'll need to know that, okay? She'll need to understand that, all right? Because it's possible she's not fully aware of the depth of the battle that she's entered into here, but she's going to become aware of it, you know? And there are several sources that already have, mentioned and confirmed that. One of those being James Carville, who essentially has helped past Democratic presidents to enter into, excuse me, the running for the White House. Some people think he's just a grumpy old guy, but I would tend to believe that he's also a very wise old guy, and he understands how this darkness thing plays itself out and how deeply it is. Okay, he kind of recommended in one of the posts that I saw that the Democrats cannot rest on the laurels of the success and the popularity of Kamala. They have to have an offensive and a defensive plan, both in place. If they get too focused on one, that Trump will hammer her, okay, and hammer her with things that she's probably, like I said, not aware of. Okay, so already she is going to have an impact on his raising of money. The fact that both of these individuals were born on a full moon. In Vedic astrology, full moons are very fortunate. And obviously these are two people that have had very fortunate lives. Okay. In regards to Kamala Harris, and you'll see this a little bit further along the line, as I show these other videos, Donald Trump's sun is in her 12th house, but it's very close to her ascendant. You can see here that his sun is at 22 degrees Gemini. Her ascendant is 24 degrees of Gemini, okay? And that his moon is on her descendant, all right? Also, in this particular comparison, Kamala Harris's Pluto is in Donald Trump's very first house. This is kind of in-your-face defiance, I am going to fight for independence. Okay, I'm going to fight for a new identity for women, a new identity for the underprivileged in America. So this is a direct affront to Donald Trump's personality, okay, his way of him projecting himself to the public. Okay, you can see over here that I put little boxes here to make, I think, the interpretations a little more understandable, okay, for those of you that are watching them. From time to time I've done this. Now, the most significant part probably of the entire combination of the two charts is that Kamala Harris's Saturn, you can see here, is 1 degree off of being conjunct Donald Trump's 7th house. This is the house of his relationship with others. All right, Saturn, of course, relates to challenges, difficulties, delays, all kinds of misfortune in regards to dealing with others to the benefit of Kamala Harris. You'll notice over here that Saturn, again, opposes Donald Trump's Mars. It opposes his ascendant. It squares his midheaven. So his midheaven aspirations, his ability to use his bullishness, are minimized by this placement of her Saturn in his chart on the 7th house cusp. Her Saturn in her Vedic chart, or in her Western chart, I'm sorry, is about 2 degrees off of her midheaven in the 9th house. Okay, this is the lawyer in her. This is the individual that has prosecuted cases and knows how to address a criminal. Okay, how to dress him down, so to speak, in front of the public. So this placement here, okay, is an impact she's having on voters, particularly, I think, the young, and also to some extent the MAGA, because it diminishes the bullish persona of Donald Trump, and you can see that happening. Okay, but this conjunction here on Kamala Harris's ascendant and her 7th house, okay, indicates that these two individuals are kind of like in an adversarial relationship, an adversarial connection. The sun and the ascendant, if you've ever met somebody with the sun on your ascendant or your ascendant on their sun, there is a commonality, there's a bond there, okay? There is a quality of, I guess we have done this before, we have remembered this before, this type of thing. So, in spite of the fact that Kamala Harris has all these weapons of her Saturn, okay, plus Pluto, okay, her Pluto here is really in defiance of who Donald Trump is, because it's squaring his Uranus, which he very much is, and his moon, okay. These are the strengths that she has, okay, to utilize in really putting him down between now and the election, if everything goes according to plan, if everything goes the way that logically we would think that it should go, but it's doubtful that that's exactly what's going to happen. And I'll explain that a little bit more as I go forward here. Okay, this essentially is the same graphical representation, but it's using the ascendant, the midheaven, and the dwarf planet Eris. I've got Eris here squaring his Mercury, and Eris sesquiquadrate his Mars, indicating Eris, strife and discord, the effect that Eris's placement in her chart affects his thinking and his actions. Okay? In other words, he is afraid of her because he understands on some level that she is a worthy opponent. And again, I want to take you back to this thing that I mentioned very early on. This is not just a political battle. This is a battle for freedom or control. And this battle, depending upon which way it goes, is going to have a dramatic effect on the future of mankind and upon the world in general. And I think that I don't have to beat that horse to death, because I think you already understand and know that. And for those of you that are frustrated maybe with the system, or you're tired of the whole scenario, don't let that discourage you from voting. Okay? Don't let that discourage you from voting, because this is a severely important election, probably the most important election ever. Okay, now we're going to change things a little bit. And I'm going to talk about some things that possibly you're maybe a little uncomfortable with, maybe not, or things that you are aware of, maybe not. Okay, I've already mentioned that they both were born with full moons. Okay, full moon in the Vedic astrology indicates usually a very successful, a very fortunate type of personality. Okay, in this particular chart here, you'll notice in her chart, this is her chart, that Donald Trump's Sun, North Node, Uranus, and midheaven are all in her 12th house. Okay, now this tells me a couple of things. This tells me that he can get into her head. All right, that he can have an impact and influence upon her, okay, in regards to how she presents herself, how she handles and she deals with things. All right, Now, if you have read any of my Substack newsletter posts, in the last couple of days, I've talked about everything from awareness and black magic to Trump and black magic. Okay? And I mentioned in those particular posts that whether or not Donald Trump is in some way, shape, or form associated with black magic, whether, as some have supposed, that he actually is a physical demon, okay, these things really don't matter in the sense of the ideas and the labels that are placed upon them. What is important is the depth of negativity to which he's successfully able to project without retribution. Okay? The ability that he's been able to con people, okay? Supreme Court justices, Eileen Cannon, okay? This is not your normal type of influence. This is the type of influence that gets very deeply underneath your protection and to the very soul of who you are, okay? It's kind of like the old Renfield character in the movies with Dracula. You know, yes, master type stuff, okay? So what I'm implying here is that from a standpoint of darkness, from a standpoint of dark energy, okay, Donald Trump has plenty of hidden options that he can utilize to depress and to demoralize us. Look what he's done with fear in the last 6 years. That will be one of his favorite tools going into the election. He has had people essentially die under his watch as president because of a lack of ability to administer, excuse me, or to delegate what needed to be done. He's not beyond any of this, okay? He knows that he has one more chance to get what he wants and that he will do whatever it takes to get that, okay? I mean, whatever it takes. He's probably already had plan A, B, Z, A, B, C, and D in effect for a long time, all right? Because if he is in alignment with darker energies, he's also in alignment with darker consciousness, okay? And darker consciousness is a part of the universe that is essentially just dark energy. It's how do we outmaneuver the light, all right? And this, in my opinion, is why you see what you see going on. Okay, it is a battle for freedom versus control. Okay, he is a formidable enemy, adversary, very secretive, very cunning. He puts on a front, but the truth of who he is a totally different beast. Okay, somebody mentioned the other day in a post that he's not the Antichrist, he's the beast. Well, that would make some sense if you go back and look at your Bible. Okay. And his midheaven, okay, being in her 12th house, here's that Jupiter that I talked about a little bit earlier, all right? Secret plans, okay, secrecy. This is all about secrecy. This is about what Kamala Harris may be a blind spot in her consciously, okay? She is going to have to rely on resources that she may not even know that she has, okay? And we're going to find that out, okay? His moon on her 7th house cusp indicates that he does have the ability to influence and sway others in Sagittarian manners, okay? This is what the moon means on her 7th house cusp, is that he does have, okay, this ability, all right? And there's another factor here, too, to be considered. When you take a look here at this midheaven, and I may show you this in another image here. Okay. All right, there's a couple of things here, and then I'll get back to the midheaven because it is significant. Okay. A couple other things to take note here. These are Donald Trump's Saturn squaring her sun and her moon. This is his Saturn here. This is her moon. This is her sun. Now, she has an extremely tight full moon within minutes. Okay, that means something. It's much tighter than what his is. All right, but the fact that Saturn is here and it is a T-square to these, okay, coming from the second house, could in some way, shape, or form indicate that he has or can utilize some secret plan to depress her finances, to create havoc in regards to finances, to depress her view and her outlook, okay? Something that she has not encountered, okay? Something of a dark magic, black magic type of an attack on somebody if they're not aware of what's going on, if they're not strong enough consciously within inside of themselves, can totally mentally and emotionally do what we saw happen to Joe Biden. And I have wondered to a certain degree whether or not that may have been something. You know, Joe Biden is more of the Western Christian type of individual. Kamala Harris has a background, I believe it's in Southeast Asia and also India. So culturally, she's much more aware of these things and their reality. And it's very possible, okay, very possible, that Donald Trump in that first debate called upon dark energy to mess with Joe Biden's head, okay? And we may see a similar situation happen here with Kamala Harris if he's able to outmaneuver her. This is like a chess game. It's like, you know, pawn, you know, or rook and to the queen and all that type of stuff. It's a big, big, complex chess game here, okay? Trump's Uranus, squaring her Uranus, squaring her Venus, okay? Again, this is his assault, okay? His individual assault upon her as a woman, and also the difference in freedom, okay? What he considers freedom and what she considers to be freedom. She knows that it is a situation that freedom is exactly what you say it is. It is the freedom to be and to determine your own destiny to a degree. With Trump, it's the freedom to be in control. Okay, so again, even with her strengths, he also has these counters to her particular strengths. And we'll have to keep an eyeball on her in terms of what happens to her. Okay, this particular chart right here shows us again the difference. Donald Trump here, okay, we're talking about Uranus, okay, squaring Pluto. It's again control versus freedom. This right here to me is kind of the signature of the purpose behind this entire thing. It's the battle of control versus freedom in terms of what is our purpose and our destiny. Okay. Now, lastly here, I was going to mention this a little earlier and I forgot about it. It has to do with Donald Trump's his natal midheaven. You can see here that it squares her Mars and her Saturn. Okay. Two of the strong points. Okay. Saturn opposing Mars, Saturn squaring Mars can often indicate unconscious fears. Okay. And the question that I have here about this particular aspect is there something unconsciously within her, okay, a fear that she has not encountered, that she has not dealt with, that could have an impact upon her ability to function from that Saturn and that Mars. All right. They're both going to be clawing at each other's throat in a sense. But it's going to take more than aggression for her to win against Donald Trump. It's going to take the full backing of the American people. And this is why I've been mentioning this since the beginning of this video. That we need to realize that it is not solely the responsibility of Kamala Harris to defeat Donald Trump. The American people have to defeat Donald Trump. They have to show the universe that they're willing to go into the unknown and to discover and learn what is necessary. You know, if you want to drive the car and you're 16 years old, you have to show that you have the responsibility and the skill and the good sense to drive the car. If you want to go into the future and you want to be able to handle what is coming down the road that needs to be dealt with, you'd better know the game and how it's played. And you better know it better than just the politics. Okay? You better have more invested than just the politics. It's one thing to say I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. It's another thing to stand up for what Republicans or Democrats believe. Okay? And it is that serious. All right? During World War II, it wasn't enough just to say that Adolf Hitler is a bad man. There were Americans, there were Canadians, there were British, there were French people that actually put their life on the line because they knew that freedom was more important than to let one man and his ruthlessness rule the world. Okay? Again, we are at that point. We're at that very point to where we are the ones who have to decide, okay, whether or not we're going to do what it takes, okay, to maintain our freedom, or just essentially to surrender in the hopes that it'll all just go away. Okay, it's going to take more than that. It's going to take more than that. And I'm not talking here about physical violence. I'm talking about a conscious rebirth in humanity to be able to rediscover unknown powers that we possess that can help us with the right circumstances to make positive changes for the future. Okay, better decisions about what is right and what is wrong and what we need to do to see to it that things are taken care of. The planet's taken care of. Okay, the weather's taken care of. All right, the poor and the needy are being taken care of. Okay, that the truth about the promise of America is not just talk. All right, most people would agree that the truth about America, even up until this point, is pretty much about talk. And the wound and the damages that fear and hatred and anger have stirred up have almost got us to the point where the only response to that is some form of violence. And you can bet that Donald Trump, if he has to, if he feels he's backed into the corner enough, he will do whatever he can to ignite that violence. Okay? That's his out, in a way. Maybe his final out. Okay. I think I've covered about everything that I wanted to share with you in this video, and I hope that you take to heart and consider what I'm talking. I know about the topics talking about dark energy and demons and things like that. To some may seem like it's childishness, or that it is foolishness, or that it is otherworldly mumbo jumbo. But I can assure you, after 40 years of having had experiences with this particular nature, particularly when I was actually a Pentecostal minister, I can tell you that this energy does exist. And it exists in many different forms, in many different people. And not everybody here on the planet is here to evolve into the light. All right, there are those who are determined to, or trapped in some ways, in their own darkness. Okay, if you like it, please share it on the internet. Comment. I'd love to hear your comments. Don't be afraid to share what you feel. I will do my best to explain to you why I made the comments that I made and why I feel it's important that you understand this and the depth of it. And if you get a chance to, I've mentioned this many times, to come over to Substack, the platform for newsletters. My 3 newsletters are Knowing Whispers, Messages from the Universe, Trump in America, and the other one is Ask the Astrologer. CJ's 2 newsletters are CJ's World and CJ's Whispers of Knowing. And you'll get some of that inner spiritual nourishment to remind you of what's really important in these times. Okay, and not to get so tangled up into the emotions and the negativity, because it's going to get uglier. Okay, and as somebody had mentioned, and I'm kind of thinking in my own way that it might be the case that we could very well have a situation with this election to where the election is not decided decisively, and that it is legally challenged, okay, with this Supreme Court after November the 5th, and that the inauguration could be pushed off because of the legal battles that are going on. All right, many unknowns, many things that are beyond the scope of just logic and reasoning or of politics. Okay, Again, as I mentioned before, this is really is a battle for the soul of America. Okay, it's a battle for your soul. All right, and we should take that, seriously. Okay, from the love of my life, CJ, my spiritual partner, my best friend, my teacher, sometimes my mentor. Okay, someone who I am blessed beyond any kind of belief to have in my life. Okay, after all the searching I did growing up. We thank you, those of you that are members and subscribers to the channel. We thank you for your support. This Saturday, 10 to 11 Eastern Daylight Time, I will hopefully do a live stream where we can talk about a lot of this that I'm talking about today. So pass that along, keep it in mind. I think over 50 people responded and said that they wanted me to keep doing them. We average between 20 and 25. I'd like to see more there. If you would join us, it would show that your interest is sincere. And again, we're here with you through this entire process to bring to light whatever we feel should be shared, and for you to give thought to and support also your growth in consciousness while you're going through all this stuff. Okay. Thank you again, and I hope you have a good weekend.